Instagram Live and Facebook Live, actually. Good morning, everyone. As you may see, the setup is slightly different than usual. That's thanks to my friend Haiku, who made her chat available for me today. As I'm actually in London at the moment, not in Scotland. I'm here to play with Glyndebourne on the opera production of Damnation of Faust, which is why the live is from a different location today. Let me know if everything is fine, if you can hear me and if you can see me. I think that usually, I don't sometimes see those comments as they come along, but if there are any problems, just let me know. And if you want to say hello, you can say hello and tell me how you are this Friday morning. I can see people joining in. If you can send a like or write a comment just to confirm that everything is fine, I will be most grateful. Another sponsor of today's episode, apart from Anneke, who's made her harp, her flat, and her broadband available to me, thank you very much. Another friend helping me out today is a harp friend, Olivia, who lent me her tuning key, which is going to be featured in today's piece, today's surprise piece. Just wondering if there's anything else I would like to share with you with the news. If you're into opera and you're around London or south of England in general, please have a look at the Glyndebourne website, because the festival is starting this weekend. We're having our first performance of Damnation of Faust this Saturday, and I just checked that tickets are still available. It's a real treat for anyone interested in music, because it's such an amazing event and such an amazing place to be in Glyndebourne. I don't know if you are familiar with the history of the place. If you aren't, I'll put a link later in the description of this live, so you can go and check out this absolutely incredible place. It's a newly built, the festival has been going on since the end of Second World War, I think, but the new theater has been just built a few years ago, and it's a beautiful place, well outside the city, surrounded with beautiful gardens, where in the break, there's 1.5 hour break in the performance, you're invited to bring your own picnic and have that picnic in the gardens. It's something absolutely unique, and I think everyone should go there at least once in their life. And for all the harp lovers, that's an even more special treat, because in the Damnation of Faust we are going to have 4 harps, and even more interestingly, because those 4 instruments can't really fit into the orchestral pit where the orchestra normally is, we're going to be located among the audience, and when we are about to play, the lights will come up and you will see where the harps are. So quite an interesting setup for this one. I'll just quickly check if there are any comments, or everything seems to be working, I hope. So let's move on to our piece. I hope you have your tea or coffee ready, or your drinks. If you need to go to the loo, now is the chance to go before I start playing. I'll just check my notes about what I was going to say about this piece, because there's actually a lot to be said. It's part of the book by Susann, McDonald and Linda Wood. I'll try to find the cover for you to see. And I think it's a brilliant introduction to contemporary harp techniques and to modern repertoire for someone who's new to the harp, because this kind of repertoire and techniques are actually quite important in playing the harp, as more and more pieces are written for the harp and more composers are interested in unusual sounds that can be used on the harp. So here's the cover of the book. I think Instagram might see it in the mirrored version, but hopefully Facebook, it's fine. This is called Haiku for the harp, and is inspired by Japanese poetry, haiku. And each piece has its own poem. The poems, I don't know how much you know about haiku, but they tend to be really short, about 3 lines, 3 verses, I think that's called. Each haiku, they can be on quite a broad number of subjects, but it's usually something to do with nature, and usually they include a mention of a season of the year. So they usually refer to something that happens in a particular season of the year. And today's haiku is the very first one from this book. I think they are sort of organized by increased difficulty level. So that first one is actually one of the easiest in the book. And that poem, which I'm going to read to you now, goes like that. A stray cat asleep on the roof in the spring rain. That's by Taiji. I'm not quite sure if I pronounced the Japanese correctly. But in this piece, you will hear some noises made by this tuning key, actually, which I imagine were supposed to mimic the sound a cat may make. Let's have a listen. How will that sound? So I imagine that it's a cat stretching and yawning in the spring, hopefully a bit warmer despite the rain. And the way that works, we're putting a metal tuning key. It's quite important that it's not a rubber tuning key. It has to have a bit made of metal to make it slide along the string but not damp the tone. So we put it on a chosen string. In this piece, that's a G string, it's indicated. And as we pluck the string with the left hand, we slide the key with our right hand. And this might be a bit counterintuitive because as we're going down, the sound will go up like that. But as we go up with the key, the sound actually goes down, the pitch goes down. I hope you can hear that through the Facebook and the Instagram Live. Other things which need to be said about that piece, as I mentioned already, it's not a very difficult piece. I remember I played it, I think within the first 6 months of playing the harp. You need to be able to play with 4 fingers because of some chords and stretches here. And apart from that, I think as long as you're confident reading the music in the bass clef and in the treble clef, you should be fine. One other interesting thing about that piece is the range. You need to have the low C on your harp, that's the lowest note, and then the D, two Ds above the middle C. So it's 22 strings. I'm not quite sure what is the range of the smallest harps, which have 22 strings, but as long as your harp has the low C and 2 Cs and D above the middle one, you should be fine. So that's a very nice piece to play on a smaller harp. Today I'm playing the pedal harp, but actually it doesn't matter. The piece doesn't have any levers or pedal changes, and you can play it on both pedal harp and lever harp as long as you've got the right number of strings. I was wondering if there's anything else I needed to say. The 2 composers of the piece are Susann McDonald and Linda Wood, and that's the stray cat. Oh, I'm really sorry, but I forgot to do one important thing. I'm normally having an audio recording going on as well for the better sound quality, and I forgot to put it on, I'm afraid. So let me just put that on for you. Hello, it will make a bit of noise, and now it's recording. That's just so I can then put the sound and the video together for slightly better sound, because when it goes through Facebook, I think you can't really hear the dynamics that I'm making because it makes the louder tones a bit quieter and so on. So I'm having a separate audio. Let me just check that. Okay. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, what happened? Sorry, I'm just having a bit of trouble with my laptop, and I don't know what happened. Sorry for these problems. I don't know why my laptop just chosen to shut down, but without further delay, here is the piece, A Stray Cat by Susann McDonald and Linda Wood. Just grabbing that. the piece, just removing the tuning key, it's quite important that you keep it, hold it quite firmly so it doesn't go down and hit the harp. And I'm just going to, I'm just hoping that my battery in the phone will not die. If the Instagram will turn off at some point, you can always go to my website and see the rest of it on the website. So now about practicing that piece, how you should go about practicing that piece. I'm going to open my notes again. A very nice thing about this piece, apart from being suitable for beginners, is that actually only one hand does the playing. The other hand is operating the tuning key, going up and down. And actually in the music you're asked to play the melody and every sort of harp sounds, proper harp plucking strings. You're asked to play that with your left hand, but I think it's perfectly fine to play that with your right hand as well. There's nothing preventing you to play that with your right hand. It's not too low on the harp, you should be able to reach that freely. So that piece is very nice for anyone who experienced injury to one hand and cannot play with one hand for any reason. As long as you're still able to hold something like a tuning key and move it up and down, you should be fine to play that. I think every teacher experienced that sometimes one of your students breaks their finger or breaks their hand. Maybe you wouldn't be able to play that with a broken hand, but if anything happens to your wrist or fingers or anything like that, you can still use that piece to practice something and enlarge your repertoire while you're recovering with your other hand. So that's one good thing about this piece. And because of the way it is written, I would suggest that you start practicing that with just the hand that you choose to use to play the plucked strings. So one important thing is choosing the right fingering. It's written in that it's 4, 2, 1, 3, 1, and I think it's quite a good choice. So the only thing that you need to remember is the directional placing, that 4 to 1 are going in one direction, going up, so they go all together. Then before you play the thumb, you place the third finger, because that's change of the direction, and then replace the thumb to go on C, play third, play the thumb, because that figure will repeat all the way throughout the piece. Then the next thing is making sure that you know where the high notes are. There are quite a few ledger lines there, so if you're not too confident reading the notes above the ledger lines, you can write in your music that highest note is D, just to make sure that you get it. And the way that piece is written, there are the small notes just before, which are supposed to make it sound like a spring grain, so they go like that. We play that with second finger and the thumb. And I would recommend that at the beginning you practice them together, like that. So pretending that they are actually a chord of 2 notes being played together, because then you are going to practice placing them and you'll be able to see more clearly where they are. And the first thing, again, I think I've spoken about this in the previous live, I would do just placing, so not playing, just pretending that you're moving your fingers from there, where you are playing the main theme, you have your fingers there, and then you jump up there on the harp, because that's quite a bit of a jump, so you need to be quite sure where your hand is going. Then I would practice bars 8 and 9, where you've got quite a lot of these small notes, so just moving really quickly between them in the direction, making sure that you're going to the right strings, and then practicing them, again, played quite quickly as chords, maybe without putting too much attention to the rhythm, just making sure that you can move quickly from one chord to the other. And then I would add the rhythm, and the time signature here is 6/8, which means we've got 6 quavers in a bar. And I would probably consider writing in those beats in my music for any parts where the rhythm is not quite the usual 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. There is one bar where we go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I would write all the beats in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 depending on your preference, and then circle the ones that you're playing on. So in case of that bar I would circle 1, I would circle 1, then 3, then again 4 and 6. So I've got a visual reminder on which beats I need to play the notes. And that will be also a similar situation towards the end of the piece, where you need to really know which of the notes that you play are quavers and which are crotchets. So that's for the rhythm. We're still not adding the tuning key just yet to the piece. And then you can give your other hand, the one that was doing the placing of the plucking of the strings, a tiny bit of a break, and take the tuning key and just play with it a bit and experiment. What do you think sounds best when you play those noises? They are marked as forte and you need to play them quite strongly to make sure the sound comes through. That's about this dynamic for a normal string plucking, but with the tuning key it will sound much softer, so you need to take that into account. And just finding where you want it to be on the string, how fast do you want it to make the noise. Very fast meow, or maybe slightly longer lazy. I think lazy is quite good. And then in the middle bit you have to go down the string quite a few times, so you need to make sure that your tuning key is quite high and then going down bit by bit, because you have to play 12 notes going up. So just pacing that as you go. And I think that's it. I would definitely recommend you checking that book out, both if you're a teacher and a musician, because they will introduce your students or yourself to many different techniques of contemporary harp playing, like using the tuning key. There is also tapping on the soundboard. I think there is also one piece which includes waving pieces of paper through the strings for percussion-like effect. There are definitely some xylophone sounds where you hold your left-handed strings near to the soundboard and then you play them to make percussion-like effect. Just trying to see if there's anything else. I mentioned tapping. Oh, and there are also quite a few things where you have to actually talk and say things out loud, say bits of poem out loud. And I think there is one piece which divides the music into sections put in boxes, and it's up to the performer to decide which section is played first. So you're actually really involved into playing the piece and composing the piece, deciding what the piece will sound like. So I think it's really, really good fun for all levels of how do we say it? For all levels of harpists, no matter how many years you've played, from very first beginners to more advanced students. Just checking if there's anything else that I forgot to mention before I leave you. No, I think that's it, basically. I hope you enjoyed that piece. Let me know if you were familiar with that book or not. I'll just quickly check comments. I don't see any comments on Facebook, but I saw something on Instagram. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your kind comments. Thank you very much to everyone who joined in. Thank you again to the sponsors of this episode, Olivia, who borrowed me the tuning key, and Anneke, who lent me the harp. And I hope to see you next week at the same time for another piece. Take care. Bye.